Good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for finding time to being with us today. The show is Diaspora Dispatches, and here is the latest news from across the continent of Africa. We start from Zambia. And police in Zambia have surrounded the house of ex-President Edgar Lungu in the capital, Lusaka, and demanded access to search it. Mr. Lungu's lawyer, Jonas Zimba, has told Diamond Television that police officers are conducting a search allegedly linked to the ownership of 3 motor vehicles and a title deed. He said the search follows a complaint against the former First Lady, Esther Lungu, over her suspicious ownership of the 3 motor vehicles. Police have not yet issued a statement over the development. The former ruling party, Patriotic Front, PF, have described the deployment as a breach of Mr. Lungu's immunity as guaranteed by the law. Mr. Lungu lost power to Hakainde Hichilema in August of 2021 election. Nigerian lawmakers have appealed to the United Kingdom justice authorities to temper justice with mercy over the sentencing of a Nigerian politician found guilty of organ trafficking. Senator Ekwe Remadu, his wife, and a medical middleman were convicted in March for organ trafficking plot. After they brought a 21-year-old man to the UK from Lagos, their sentencing is due on Friday. The Speaker of Nigeria's House, Representative Femi Bajabiamila, described Ekweremadu as a good man with no prior convictions, while pleading for leniency. The Economic Community of West African State ECOWAS Parliament has also written a letter to the UK authorities seeking clemency for the convicted politician. And of course, local media in Nigeria cited a letter by the ECOWAS speaker addressed to the chief clerk of the Old Bailey Criminal Court in London. It was said to note that although ECOWAS stands against the crime for which Ekweremadu had been convicted, it believes that lessons have been learned. The letter also described Ekweremadu as a major asset to the ECOWAS region. And then from Rwanda, the death toll from landslides and floods in Rwanda has now risen to more than 100 amid heavy rains in the country. The authorities have said. The Rwandan public broadcaster RBA reports that 109 have so far died, 95 of those in the western province and 14 in the northern province. Earlier, the governor of the country's western province had told the media that at least 50 had died after heavy rains pounded the region all night, and many houses have collapsed on people. The provincial number of those who have died, as per last evening, was 55, but right now it has gone to over 100. He said the main roads in the province, including the new road snacking along Lake Kivu, are not usable because of the landslides. He said rescue activities in the remote areas were underway, with the number of victims likely to go up. The Rwandan Meteorological Agency has warned of heavy rains throughout this month. And the latest from Sudan, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has arrived in Kenya to follow up on the humanitarian and security situation in Sudan following weeks of clashes. Mr. Guterres was received on Wednesday morning by Kenya's Foreign Affairs Minister Alfred Mutua at the main airport in the capital, Nairobi. During his 2-day visit, the UN chief will hold talks with President William Ruto and also meet all heads of the United Nations agencies in Nairobi. The warring military factions in Sudan have agreed to a 7-day truce starting on Thursday. And the United Nations Children Agency UNICEF says recent global crises such as the COVID-19 pandemic have helped slow momentum in ending children marriages worldwide. It, however, raises particular concern over the situation in sub-Saharan Africa, which it says appears to be bucking the overall trend of declining numbers. In a new report, UNICEF says the number of girls married off before reaching the age of 18 has been declining over the past decade, but the health and economic crisis, armed conflict, and the effects of climate change are forcing some parents into marrying off their daughters young. It estimates that around 12 million girls globally become child brides each year, describing the practice as a clear violation of children's rights. And back to Nigeria, authorities have dismissed accusations of ethnic buyers during the evacuation of stranded nationals in Sudan. This follows a viral video in which one of the Nigerians stranded in Sudan alleged that some of them were left behind during evacuation because of their ethnicity. But in a statement on Tuesday, the Nigerian in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, denied the accusations, terming them divisive and ridiculous. Abdul Rahman Balagun, the NIDCOM spokesperson, said all those converged at the prescribed locations were picked up and all have been moved in 40 buses either towards Port Sudan or towards the Egyptian border. He said priority was given to women, children and students and were called according to their states in alphabetical order, beginning with the southeastern Abia state. If some arrived after the stipulated time or did not show up at the point of pickup, Mr. Balagun said that they cannot blame the organizers of that evacuation. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has invited the Minister of Foreign Affairs, NIDCOM, and the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to appear before it to give an account of the evacuation status of Nigerians in Sudan. Very well, and 30 media outlets, journalist associations and freedom of expression organizations on Wednesday called on the ruling juntas in Mali and Burkina Faso to protect journalists in the face of growing threats. In an open letter published on the occasion of World Press Freedom Day, the signatories of the appeal say the situation of journalists in Burkina Faso has become very critical. They are alarmed by the calls for the murder of journalists and opinion leaders, threats and intimidation of the national press, and set up against the journalists, suspension of international media, RFI and France 24, expulsion of correspondents from the French newspapers Libération and Le Monde. In Mali, too, pressure and intimidation are on the rise, saying the signatories, who include a number of Burkinabe media outlets, the Malian television station Joliba, the French media France 24, Libération, Le Monde and Radio France International, as well as journalist associations and rights organizations. In this letter, addressed to the heads of major Africa and international organizations, the signatories point to the repressive actions of the authorities. But increasingly, the attacks are also the work of influencers who on social media networks play vigilante and do not hesitate to threaten journalists and opinion leaders who are too independent in their eyes with death. That is according to part of that letter that was established now in a gloomy report published a month ago. Reporters Without Borders said the Sahel region was in danger of becoming Africa's biggest news blackout zone, denouncing a constant deterioration in the working conditions of the local and international press. Mali and Burkina Faso have been ruled by juntas since 2020 and 2022, respectively. Let's go to Cameroon now. And authorities in the country say Anglophone rebels have attacked military posts near the country's port city of Douala, killing several people. The attack is the closest the Separatist conflict has come to Douala since fighting broke out in 2017. Officials in Cameroon say at least 15 heavily armed rebels attacked a military post Monday in Matoke, a farming village less than 40 kilometers west of Douala. Officials say the Separatists killed at least 6 people and wounded many others without giving a figure. The government said it is yet to confirm the identities of the victims, but rebels and villagers said they killed 5 troops and a civilian. Speaking via a messaging app, Samuel Diadone Ivana Diboa, a governor of Cameroon's littoral region, which includes Matoke and Douala, said he visited the injured in a military hospital on Monday night. Diboa said both the military and the civilians do not accept separatists extending attacks and disorder to Douala, an economic hub in Central Africa. He said the military presence has been increased on the border between Cameroon's littoral region and the English-speaking southwest region where the fighters came from. He said civilians have been mobilized to denounce suspected fighters in their towns and villages. It is the first time rebels have attacked so close to Douala, a seaport of about 4 million people that supplies 80% of imported goods for the landlocked Central African Republic and Chad. On several locations, troops have reported suspected fighters in the city and made some arrests. And in Senegal, One person has died in Senegal, Crimea, Congo, through a Congo hemorrhagic fever, a viral disease transmitted by ticks, the health ministry told the AFP on Tuesday. A butcher on duty at the Dakar slaughterhouse was declared ill on April the 21st and died on April the 22nd. Dr. Dolly Diop, coordinator of the fight against Congo fever at the health ministry, told the AFP this fatal case is the first recorded in Senegal this year. The country has had 5 cases of Congo fever in 2022, including one death. Diop said the Congo disease is zoonosis. Transmission to humans of this hemorrhagic fever occurs either through tick bites or through contact with blood or tissues of infected animals during or immediately after slaughter. That is according to the World Health Organization. The majority of cases are found among people working in the livestock sector, farmers, slaughterhouse employees, and veterinarians. A tongue twister. And I just had my lunch, so excuse me. According to a fact sheet from the Senegalese Ministry of Health, but in humans, transmission of the disease can occur following direct contact with blood, secretions, organs, or biological fluids of infected subjects. According to the World Health Organization, the hemorrhagic fever virus causes death in 10 to 40% of the cases. And Sudan's warring generals are ready to hold talks at a venue to be agreed, according to President of South Sudan, President Salva Kiir, who is the lead mediator on the conflict for regional bloc, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD. President Kiir on Tuesday said he had held separate telephone conversations with Sudanese Armed Forces leader General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his Eastwam ally turned 4 Lieutenant General Mohammed Abdan Dagalo Hamedi, who accepted to send representatives to talks at a venue to be agreed upon. The date of actual talks was not given, but is likely to be deliberated on during the ceasefire season. The two sides have agreed on a 72-hour ceasefire since the war began on April 15th, but their parties have routinely violated them, with sporadic gunfire continuing even after they have agreed to hold fire. So that is the latest news from across the continent of Africa. A very good afternoon to you. About 16 minutes past 3 p.m. here in Nairobi, East African time. Well, I think that is the update of the situation in Sudan. Clearly, the mediation process has not started because they are even yet to agree on a venue. And I don't know if the leader of these talks is doing enough to push for both sides to agree. Maybe he's doing all he can, that is President Salva Kiir of South Sudan, or maybe he needs a little bit of help to help pushing these generals into agreeing to have a meeting as soon as possible. I think earlier on, as we were having these conversations, I think a lot is at stake right now. The lives of the people of Sudan is at stake, and that is important, and that should be urgent enough to force these two to agree, send their representatives, agree on a venue, and kickstart these talks as soon as possible, because lives are in danger here, and it is important for a solution to be reached very quickly. But as we can see, since this war broke out April the 15th, and since IGAD appointed these 3 heads of states from Kenya, Djibouti, and South Sudan, nothing much has really happened outside of that. And that is because for the mediators, it will be very difficult to perhaps make certain moves when the people you're supposed to be mediating between are not in a hurry to join in the mediation. But the army has continually showed its will to want to be part of this mediation, whatever is going on. The RSF has held back a few times before, but I don't know why they've not agreed upon a venue. I thought South Sudan was a bit okay. South Sudan has held talks about Sudan before, so it would have been an appropriate venue. And I had assumed that since President Salva Kiir was the one leading this mediation on behalf of IGAD, of course, with the presidents of Kenya and Djibouti. So I had assumed that perhaps this mediation process will be happening in Juba. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe neither of the sides or one of the sides is not comfortable with having this mediation going on in Juba. So now we have to sit here and argue about the venue, really. Can we agree on that? How long will this take to arrive at a decision? How long? President Salva Kiir put these people on the phone, a three-way or a five-way or a five-way phone call. The two generals and the other two heads of states from Kenya and Djibouti, the five of you on that phone call, and agree where can we have this mediation, and don't hang that phone call until you get an answer to that and an agreement, so that you all agree, at least those two warring sides agree, because I think for the rest of you are flexible, you can have this mediation anywhere, so that you can agree, so that this does not become something else that will take another 1 week to decide upon. About a venue. Now we start arguing about a venue. I do understand the importance of a venue. It's very, very important to have a good offices. So I don't know which country will be, perhaps these two leaders or these two military men would want to offer a good offices, a space where they feel is neutral, they feel they're safe, and I think that is what they're worried about, their safety and the neutrality of this venue. So I think we can have that. We have so many countries in this continent. There's one that is safe for both of you to go and talk. Since I had assumed it should be in Juba, which I think is really appropriate, but if you're not in for that, so let's stay on that phone call, make a solution very quickly. I know diplomacy doesn't work like that, but I'm just saying, this is a matter of urgency. With what is happening and the level of suffering that the people of South Sudan are going through, this is something that just happened abruptly, although we had talked about this for a very long time, and we could see the signs that this could be turned into something really ugly, but I think it turned into something very ugly very quickly, and so a lot of people were caught off guard, okay? And so Sudanese people have been in bad situation, are in bad shape. They can't go to the hospitals. This RSF, apparently they've been accused of taking refuge in hospitals, and then the government, military, fighting them over the hospitals. So a lot of hospitals have been destroyed. So even for the sick, those who are wounded, those who have been caught in the crossfires, there's no place to seek for treatment on things like that. There's no food, there's no water supply. Things are not okay for the people of Sudan. Those are the people I'm thinking about, and those are the people I'm holding fort for, and those are the people I'm speaking for as I sit here this afternoon. So for the interest of the majority who have nowhere else to go, the poor South Sudanese, let's hurry up and decide on a venue quickly. That should not take another week, President William Ruto. Matter of fact, that should not take another day. Push for that process to hurry up. You know, if President Salva Kiir is not moving quick enough, let's have somebody else take responsibility of that process. Let's move it. But I guess President Salva Kiir is the elder in that team, so maybe because of seniority, but also because he's been handling the issue of Sudan, so I guess he's the person leading this mediation. But better still, can we move it quickly? Can we have a cessation of hostilities quickly? And then anything else can follow, because that is what the people of Sudan need. So I hope this venue will not take another week to decide upon, and back and forth about venue. That should be something to be decided within 5 minutes. You've decided. If they decide it's another country outside of the countries that are part of this mediation process, well and good. Contact that country and the authorities in that country. As long as it's in Africa, and as long as it's not in Eritrea, it's good. Or Egypt, it's fine. And then, or Ethiopia, because of some of the interest and some of the rumors behind whatever it is has been going. So we can have another country, come in and help in this mediation. So I don't think a venue should be something that now we have to sit here and wait for another 1 week for you to reach that decision. And even as we stay on this matter, Antonio Guterres is in Nairobi, I believe. And the Prime Minister of Japan is also arrived in Nairobi yesterday. It's interesting. So Antonio Guterres is in Kenya as we speak. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres arrived in Kenya to follow up on the humanitarian and security situation in Sudan following weeks of clashes. So he's here for the same reasons. And of course, he was received on Wednesday morning by Kenya's Foreign Affairs Minister Alfred Mutua at the main airport, that is the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi. And he'll be in Kenya for 2 days. And then the UN chief will hold talks while he's in Kenya with President William Ruto, and also meet heads of UN agency. You know, Nairobi, we are the headquarters of the United Nations Environmental Program and other, UN agencies. And so it's a very important hub for the United Nations and the world. And the warring military factions in Sudan, they had agreed on a 72-hour truce. We don't know if at all that will hold. They keep agreeing on these truces, and then minutes later they violate them, or hours later they violate these truces. So there's no telling if at all this one will hold. But I think the UN Secretary General coming to Kenya, it's important, and also this signifies the importance of Kenya in this in the politics, in the geopolitics of this region. So. This is the point where Kenya needs to be counted as a voice of reason. Kenya needs to be counted as what we had been known for a long time, and that is diplomatic leadership across this region. So I think it is a good chance for President William Ruto, especially through his chief diplomat. His chief diplomat of a country is the Minister of the CSO. The person responsible for the foreign affairs, Alfred Mutua, Dr. Alfred Mutua. I don't know how he's been doing in this docket, but, this is the time that we need to see how he carries out diplomacy. Okay, so it is important, and very well. So the UN Secretary is in Nairobi for the same reason, and then I think the leader of Germany, or I think, is it Olaf Scholz? He should be coming to Kenya, and also which other country? But he's planning a trip. Is he arriving tomorrow? I think, but he's coming in within this week. Okay, all right. So anyway, let's just leave that there. Now, this story from Nigeria is quite. I don't know whether I should look at that senator first or look at. Okay, let me look at this evacuation from Sudan, and then we can go quickly and look at that senator who was found guilty of organ. We'll get back to that story very shortly. Now, Nigeria has been organizing for evacuation of its citizens from Sudan, just like every other country, and foreign citizens that have been caught up in this conflict in Sudan. So Nigeria has organized, and it put up efforts to get its people from Sudan. What I find to be really interesting now, a section of Nigerians who were complaining in a statement, there's a video of Nigerians stranded in Sudan, and they allege that some of them are left behind during evacuations because of their ethnicity. Really? And what I found to be disturbing, of course, NIDCOM, the body that was responsible with the evacuation, came out and said this is not true, and that they had organized for Nigerians to move in these buses, and they were organized according to their regions. Is that not ethnicity? They were organized according to where they come from Nigeria. How do you take that nonsense to Sudan? And how do you even find time to do that in the middle of a conflict? As long as this person is Nigerian, get on to the next bus. If that bus is not full, if it's full, get on to the next one. I guess that is how people are doing. But you take this ridiculousness and this divisive politics that you play in Nigeria in the middle of a conflict. And so this person responsible for the moving of Nigerians who were stuck in Sudan said that the priority was given to women, children, and students, and were called according to their states in alphabetical order. Why do you call people according to their states? This is the problem that Nigeria suffers. This is the problem that we see ethnicity play and plague our countries in this continent. You can tell me this has nothing to do with ethnicity. Why do you call people according to their states? Why? As long as you're a Nigerian, register over there, get on to the next bus. That is how that was going to be sorted out. And then once you get to the airport or whatever safe place you're being taken, you know, in Cairo or in whichever country that these buses were going to, then you can sort out your travels back home according to where you're going because of maybe the logistics and the planes and where they're supposed to land. Okay? But having people board buses according to their states, tell me how that is not ethnicity. And so they're saying, so perhaps these people had arrived late and the buses that had carried their people from their states had already left. So they can't enter these other buses because they don't come from these states that, it's ridiculous. I don't even know why I'm attempting to to understand this. It is ridiculous. As much as this was not perhaps the intention of the organizers who were evacuating these Nigerians who were stranded in Sudan. But I doubt that is how you do it. I can't imagine the Kenyan government, because we had a lot of Kenyans who were stuck there, but it has really managed to get a majority of them back home. And well, now you come from Kisii County, so you enter this bus, and then you come from Kwale County or Murang'a County, or like that is nonsense. You're a Kenyan, you're a Kenyan, you're a Kenyan. Okay? When you get back here in Nairobi, they can organize how you get back to coastal Kenya, to western Kenya, or whichever part of Kenya you come from. But as long as you're out there and we're trying to get you out safe and bring you back to the country, as long as you satisfy and you have proof that you're Kenyan, that's all that should matter. But to be put according to your states, I think that is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous, and it does have some undertones of some ethnical undertones there that we know has really plagued the landscape of Nigeria as a country. Now, still staying with Nigeria, the lawmakers in Nigeria who are pleading with the UK justice authorities to temper justice with mercy over the sentencing of a Nigerian politician who has been found guilty. He has been found guilty. He's been taken through the court process in the UK, and I think I've mentioned this case here several times over. He has been found guilty of organ trafficking. They were luring some Nigerians to pretend they're taking them for work in the UK, and I don't know where else, and then in the process they're going to have their organs harvested. Stop and think about it. How heinous these crimes is. By the time your organ is being harvested, I guess you're dead. So they were doing this. This Nigerian politician was found guilty of this crime. And Nigerian politicians back in Nigeria who are supposed to be annoyed that one of their leaders was using his influence together with his wife to collude with some unscrupulous people in the UK and to lure unsuspecting poor Nigerians in need of work, in need of opportunities, and take advantage of that and lead them to their death. If that is not the part that is upsetting you, but you are upset that this person, having been found guilty, is facing a jail term, and that is your worry, not the many young people who, or other people, maybe young and old, who lost their lives, who faced danger, who had their organs removed through this organ trafficking entrepreneurship led by this politician. That is the part that is supposed to anger you. That is the part that you're supposed to be upset about. But you are upset that this person is going to serve term. And now you're pleading with the UK justice authorities to temper justice with mercy. You temper justice with mercy if somebody stole a bicycle, maybe. If somebody stole a chicken. You know, that is something they can go and do some public service, go clean some public school or some, go do some public service. Organ trafficking is a serious offense. How do you temper? How do you temper justice with mercy in this case? Come on now, we have to get serious. So this Senator, Ike Ekweremadu, and his wife, the medical middleman, were convicted in March for organ trafficking plot after they brought a 21-year-old man to the UK from Lagos. Their sentencing is due on Friday. The Speaker of the Nigerian House of Representatives, Femi, described Ekweremadu, this criminal, as a good man with no prior convictions, while pleading for leniency. And then to add on top of that stupidity, the ECOWAS Parliament has also written a letter to the UK authorities seeking clemency for the convicted politician. ECOWAS, how is this your problem? See, that's how we protect ourselves. That's how politicians do it. Now you wonder why we have the countries and how our countries are run the way they are run. Because we have people who are willing to cover for their colleagues, for their other politicians, even knowing very well that these politicians or these leaders mean no good for the people. This is somebody who has been found guilty of a very heinous, act. But ECOWAS has the audacity. The leadership of Nigerian Parliament, Senate, has the audacity to write to the UK authorities. I'll be watching to see how the UK handle this case. And if you offer this person clemency, we shall have a big problem. And I will not be quiet about this. This is unfair. This is unfair. And they were caught with this 21-year-old man. You don't know how many they have lured before. You don't know how many organs have been harvested that they have helped in the process. You don't know. This is a dangerous. There's no way you can put this person and a good man in the same sentence. I don't know, unless the description of a good man changed. You cannot be describing this person as a good man. And you're saying this is his first time, he does not have prior convictions. And so because of that, you plead for leniency. No. There are things you can plead leniency for. If you went shoplifting because your children slept hungry and as a parent you don't have a job and there's nothing you can do about it and you have to go steal for your kids to eat, I will give leniency to that and add on to some shopping to help you through the hard times. That requires leniency. Like there are certain crimes that leniency can be applied. But somebody who targets other human beings to have their organs harvested, who knows how long they've been running this enterprise? Who knows how many lives have been lost through their hands? And you're here saying he's a good man. Shame on you, Mr. Speaker of Nigeria's House of Representatives. Shame on the leadership of ECOWAS, that this is a matter very important for ECOWAS, that they will have a sitting to have time to write to the UK. Well, we have all these things happening in ECOWAS that you can't even you can't even take care of, you can't even address. Come on now, like we have to do better. I think this is shameful. This is appalling, and I'm very disappointed with these politicians from Nigeria and the ECOWAS bloc. I would think there are some heads there that are clear and level-headed and know where to draw the line between good and bad. But, I've been mistaken. So anyway, I'll be watching to see. This ruling is supposed to be made on Friday. So as you well know, I'll be listening and I'll be following. Then I'll come back and I'll report for you. I want to thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's about 37 minutes past 3 p.m. here in Nairobi. East African time. Enjoy the rest of your day and I'll see you tomorrow, God willing. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.